Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning. What we're going to show you today is how to build a viewer for Openlife, or what I do, basically. So what we're going to start with is we're just going to fire up a solution. So I'm going to go to the OL dev folder. Here we have all the various bits and pieces I need to make a viewer, including the QuickTime SDK, Fmod, and other such bits and pieces like icons and resources. The batch files, by the way, are used to actually work these resources into the solution. Here we go. Here's a actual R16 source code directory. The little green dots, or ticks you see, by the way, are to do with Tortoise SVN, and that tells me that I'm synchronized with the latest source code on the SVN. So what we have to do basically is go into Indra, and there you see a little Python script. Now normally I would double click that, and that would make the solution ready to go and produce a folder called build VC71 in this case, because I use Visual Studio 2003. It would be named something different if it was another version of Visual Studio. A lot of files, as you can see. So we fire up the solution, and up comes Visual Studio. Ta-da! As you can see, heck of a lot of source code files there. The audio source code files and various bits and pieces. Of course, what we would do normally is we'd be working on these source code files and making changes to them. I'm not going to do that at this moment in time because it would take far too long to actually do that. So anyway, if we were going to make some changes, say we found a bug, we'd go to the specific piece of source code, and here we have a source code file, and we'd make the changes. In this case, this particular source code file deals with the version number, as we can see, 1.16.3 version 95. That 95 is related to the SVN commit number that I've done. But for the purposes of the video, we would make changes to the source code files, be they a bug fix or an added feature. And when we're all happy and done, we'd go release up to the build menu at the top, and then click build solution. And down the bottom here, as you can see, output and build, you'd see a lot of output coming out. It would start to build the source code files, and then it would link them, or it would link the object code. And as you can see down the bottom there, it says link 136. Now, if all has gone well and good, and it's compiled correctly, we see something like this. 24 succeeded, 0 failed, and there's a couple that have been skipped because they're not needed for this build. With that in mind, we could then basically go out of Visual Studio, take the built executable and all the files that are needed, and start up a viewer. But in this case, we actually run the viewer from within the environment. As you can see, debug at the top here. We press start, and what this does is it actually runs the viewer internally. You can see a lot of output at the bottom there in the debug window, telling me all the information I need to know about what's going in. If there's a bug and it hangs, it'll let me know. And hey presto, there we go. Kirsten Lee Openlife, password. And I think today we shall go to, let's have a look, 3DX Island. Yeah, 3DX3. Okay, so Openlife, lovely job, and log in. Wait a few moments. Welcome to the Openlife grid. Yay! Decoding images, connected to the region. That's the information you see. Of course, because I'm in the build environment, this is the information I see. As you can see, requesting mute list, money balance, agent data, etc., etc. This helps me to nail any issues in the actual startup and login, and helps me to find out where the problems lie. There's one fix, Openlife URL. That's to do with the replacement of slurls, and that was an ongoing bug. And whoosh, there we are in world. Yay! Oh, look, this is where I was working on some hardware lighting issues. This is one of the test islands, by the way. Do excuse the video's frame rate. It honestly can't keep up with the actual viewer frame rate. But here we see we've got a few little tests I've been doing with the render code with shine and glow. Prim torture. When we make changes to the prim code, we have to then make some prims up and see that we can see all the faces and sides and there's no distortion and everything's working out absolutely fine. And voila, this is a little village test. It's nothing particularly scientific. We just have a small village, which I know how many textures and how many prims are there with a little path. And if I go to the menus, fire up the statistics bar, oh yes, lovely, 40 frames per second. The upshot of it is I know when I walk through this village with my particular graphics card that I should be getting a certain frame rate, and it should be fairly well stable. If there's any glitches in the code, then I would see some marked changes, and I could obviously revert those changes and try something different. In this case, oh, it's absolutely beautiful. We're getting 40 or 50 frames per second. That's nice. That's what we'd expect for this graphics card while we're walking through this little village. Yeah, beautiful. Still downloading a lot of data there. There's about 1200 kilobits per second, but all is stable and very nice indeed. If we click on About Openlife, we can see that little source code file I was talking about actually gives the number there, 116.395. In this case, this was first built on the February the 4th, 2009, with all the various bits of technical detail I want to see there. Very handy for tracing bugs, by the way. Okay, so we're still in the build environment. We can also close down, as you see, and see the output whilst we're actually running the program. This is very similar to the debug console you get in the viewer itself, but with a little bit of added data. So we quit, and we're logging out. And as you can see, we can come back here and see all the bits and pieces, the feedback, and woof, the program has closed. One of these fixes was, of course, for Fmod, which wasn't closing down quite correctly. And that's what we're after. It's closed down with a code 0, which means it's successful. I can now exit the development environment. And if we pop into New View and the release folder, that is the completed program with all the resource files. As you can see, though, it's still got the green ticks. This is still within the SVN system, so we have to extract those files out and put them into their own little folder. As you can see, Openlife R16.3, lovely. And then this fella here is an NSys script which was written for the job, and this will actually compile the folder there into an actual working installer. And that's the installer, the finished product there. That's what then gets uploaded, and you install it. And of course, up the top here we can see you double click the icon, and that is the finished product. Loading Openlife, detecting hardware, and voila, it should just start up. Absolutely wonderful. And basically this process is repeated again and again and again, day in, day out. Usually I'll get about 4 or 5 compiles in a day, depending on the complexity, but I hope you enjoyed that. Bye-bye.